Right, full admission, I'm a really shy and introverted person. I've had a lazy eye since I was a kid, and I think that's made me the shy to myself kind of guy since then. So especially early on when I started DJing, the idea of making mistakes and messing up in public, it was something that I really had to take a second to get over. And I really wanted to DJ, so it was the first time that I had to really face that difficulty head on. And in order to get over that fear, I developed a bit of a mantra that I want to share with you guys today. Everyone is born with a set amount of mistakes that they have to make, and that number is huge and unknown. I think life is about perspective, and if you start to realize that mistakes are going to happen and try to give them a positive connotation or a positive spin, there's a good chance that you'll get some positive gains even when you're making mistakes. If you want to be a successful DJ, you're going to have to embrace this mantra, point blank period. Let's discuss the theory. Welcome to the lab. So life is all about perspective and how you look at things, right? If I told you that last week for an hour I ripped all of the muscles in my body in an intense session of micro trauma, you'd probably wonder what was going on. It sounds horrible, right? But that's what happens every time somebody works out. You're ripping your muscles apart, you're making these small tears in your muscles so they can rebuild themselves. You're putting yourself to a negative to gain an overall positive. You have to tear down essentially to rebuild stronger. And that's the same way you have to approach DJing. You need mistakes. Those short-term negatives will yield long-term positives. It's happened for every one of the DJs that you know and love. You see, there's something sweet about fucking something up that'll make a scar that you'll never be able to get rid of, and your chances of making that same mistake again get smaller and smaller every time you scar yourself. Nothing works better than embarrassing yourself in public, especially if you're ambitious or if you're shy. It's one of the reasons why I think athletes do so well. At some point you probably drop the ball or make a mistake in front of everybody, and you get through it. And through that process you become a stronger person and realize that it's okay to make mistakes. Us creatives, we tend to not have that same experience. If you made music, you may not have been an athletic person, you may not have had the opportunity to get into sports or get into self-defense, a lot of the things that allow people to learn this character trait. But I think it's something that you can establish in practice. In our digital DJing with Serato course, we really emphasize practicing with purpose because it's kind of the opposite side of that Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours principle, right? You need 10,000 hours for mastery. Well, in that 10,000 hours, you're going to make a fuck ton of mistakes, especially early on, and that's what gets you towards mastery. So for me, I'd rather you spend those 10,000 hours of mistakes in practice, doing that at your home as much as possible. And don't get me wrong, at some point you have to jump out and start gigging, and if you get the opportunity to play out, go make those mistakes in front of people. But if you can control where you make the mistakes, it takes a lot of the sting off of the process. I made a lot of early fuck-ups in the club that I really wish I made in the bedroom, and I would have made them in the bedroom had I spent more time practicing early on. I find that a good middle ground because practicing efficiently as a DJ also involves practicing in front of people, is to DJ with a couple of friends over. If you have 2 or 3 people that also want to learn to DJ, maybe you should all pitch in together and buy one controller, set some dedicated times where you can all practice and practice together, do some back-to-back sessions. It'll give you that same opportunity to fuck up, but you'll also fuck up in front of people in a controlled environment, and it'll build that callus a bit quicker than you will just messing up in your room. So you might be thinking, okay, great, you're just telling me to take a punch to the face and deal with it, right? Just mess up all the time, awesome. It sounds rough, but that is kind of what I'm asking. But here's the thing. There's some ways to make the process a bit easier to deal with. We talk a lot about this in the class. The first thing that I'll say is community helps. Going back to that example of having 2 or 3 DJ friends who want to do this together, when you can talk about mistakes and laugh about mistakes and share negative experiences, it's a lot easier to go through them. It takes a lot of the sting off of it because we all mess up, and it humanizes the experience. I had the awesome opportunity to teach at a music school in New York for a few years. And one of my favorite things to experience was that few minutes before class where students would talk about things they messed up when practicing. It became almost a badge of honor. You know, it was one of those things where people really embraced the fact that they were working so hard that they did something silly. And when you get to that level of comfort, I think that's when you really start to enjoy the process of DJing. So community helps with that a lot. It's one of the reasons why our classes include a part of the week where we sit down and have video conferences. We do this over Twitch and over Instagram a few times a week actually, just as an opportunity to get a bunch of DJs in the room to talk as you learn through the experience together. The other thing, it'll seem counterintuitive, especially if you're shy, but hear me out. Record your practice sessions on video. One of the best ways to deal with mistakes, especially train wrecking live when you mess up in front of a room, is just having the posture and body language to laugh it off and move on. Something happens when you make a mistake as a DJ in the room. The entire room looks at you. Sucks, but that's what it is. You're at the helm. If you mess up and it's pretty obvious, you're gonna have dozens of eyes on you, if not hundreds of eyes on you. I've messed up in front of festival settings. It's not fun, but it can be. If you allow yourself to get flustered and overwhelmed in that moment, you probably won't recover for the rest of the set. But if you can take that moment and if you can laugh about it, or if you can just have the posture that says, I messed up, I'm moving on, I can get this back in 2 seconds. It shows a level of confidence, and I think the crowd will trust you a lot more in that kind of a moment. When I started to embrace the fact that I could mess up and then recover it in a few minutes, DJing became fun. It really became something I didn't have to worry about. I started prepping my crates a little bit less, and I shouldn't be telling you that early on, but I really got okay with things not going perfectly because I knew how to laugh it off when things didn't go perfectly. And a lot of that is just pure body language. So record your practice sessions on video and take a look at them afterwards. If after a mistake especially, you're doing something with your body language that indicates defeat, that indicates that you're embarrassed, start to check yourself in your room. It's going to be difficult. It's always difficult to look at yourself on film. I'm going to hate editing this after I'm done recording it. But I think it's something that, you know, we should embrace. We have phones that allow us to capture video, and that's something that's really, really vital in getting comfortable with this process. Your body language, your posture, how you look when you're controlling a room is just as important to some people as what you're playing. So you might as well get that in check while you can. So our course drops in a few days. I am super excited. I've been working on this thing for weeks, for months actually. If you would like to sign up, we are looking for a few trusty beta testers. It requires you to have a functioning version of Serato and a controller or a setup. If you have turntables, great, but preferably MIDI controllers. This is a digital DJing course, so we do want to favor, you know, our DJs and DJs to be that are using controllers. We're using a Roland DJ 202 for the course. I chose this controller specifically because it's super cost efficient and I love the feel of it. We'll actually talk about why I like the controller so much in another video. But if you would like more information about the course, if you want to hear about launch day and be invited to that first access session, sign up at labsciencepodcast.com. The links will be below. We're looking forward to rolling out this class, man. It's going to be a really fun one. We worked really hard on putting this together for you guys. So until the next video, peace and love. Share your ideas in the comments. Lift each other up whenever you can. Peace.